We meet here on the first Wednesday of every month at 11:30. And every year I request that our guest kick us off for the year. And the reason why is because he embodies to me what the power of WordPress community can be. So there's two people that really do that for me, and that's Mellen and Kathy Druin. And Kathy's really like my personal mentor and has really kind of taken me by the hand and led me through the WordPress community. Mickey has just always been out front teaching and leading, and a lot of the technical things that I learned about WordPress, I learned directly from Mickey. A lot of the ways he runs his agency, I have also, taken that on. For a long time, I didn't really understand a lot of why things should be done the way they should be done. And I would just, whatever Mickey was doing, I would just do that. So I just want to share him with my audience, because I feel like if you can get even a part of the benefit from his leadership that I have, then I will have just done my job as the host. So I am going to now trying to get everybody in here. Mickey, we still have people joining right now. So you may have to, when I hand over the presenter to you, you may just have to keep clicking this. Is that cool with you?
Yep, that's fine.
Because we got a lot of people coming in.
Gotcha. Cool.
So I will, oh yeah, here we go. Mickey, make host. And everybody, welcome Mickey.
All right, cool. Thank you. Let me get a few things set up here. I'm going to share my screen and let me get the chat and stuff up as well so I can let people in. There we go. A couple more. So yeah, so as I go along, please do interrupt me if you have questions, either verbally or in chat. I'm happy to stop and answer them as we dig through this. Good to see so many familiar faces. Like April said, the community is just amazing. Love every aspect of the WordPress community. I'm noticing really even with other agencies nearby, if they're not WordPress focused agencies, they're just so much more closed. Like there's a couple located not too far from our office that I've been trying to just have lunch with, not recently, but in the past, and they just have no interest because we're competition. And it's great in WordPress that we're all competition, but we're all, all good friends here too. So it's great. Going through our process here, this is typically like a 6-month process that we go through, but depends on which pieces you need and what you don't and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of this is optional as we go through for our projects, but we'll take it as we go. So April said a good bit about us. We're a team of 7 now. Actually, Robert is not in the picture yet. We got to get that done soon. I've been around for 11 years building WordPress sites. Have an office just off Marietta Square. Yeah, good times there. So we were talking to a prospective client once, a couple years ago, and we went through our whole process with him, and he bailed after that, saying he, quote, didn't want to be boxed in. He wanted to be more creative and didn't need a process to follow. And I can appreciate wanting freedom, but wide open freedom can lead to easily prevented problems. So this process that we have is not super unique, but we'll go pretty deep on it, but allows for a lot of freedom at each step, with the steps helping to keep things on the rails. So we'll kind of dig in and you'll see how that works. We still have a lot of freedom, but there's no big surprises along the way either. So when working with clients, we start with discovery. I think a lot of folks do. Figuring out what their goals are at a high level. We'll dig deeper into this in a little bit, but figure out why they think they want a new website, who they think their target audience is. Some people have great answers, some don't. We'll talk about features, other features they need, timing, budget, that kind of stuff. And then once we get started, we collect their assets, whether we're building logos, figure out where their domain is, figure out where their hosting is, all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of things we do up front. And really, we do a whole lot up front. To quote Abraham Lincoln, you've probably heard this before, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Website's largely a graphical outcome, but when we're building a site, we're 2 or 3 months before we start any graphic design. We're a couple months of strategy and planning, and we'll work through some of that before we really start what they think is chopping down the tree. I guess we're sort of chopping it down the whole time, but it doesn't look that way because people want to say, what's it look like right out of the gate? And it shouldn't work that way. So our next step, once we get going, is messaging strategy. We largely follow the StoryBrand framework. A lot of you are familiar with. We're not certified, so we do pull in local StoryBrand certified guides if needed, but we have kind of a loose version of what we follow to go through just to figure out who their audience is and how to talk to them. We want to tell the audience about their own problem, recite their own problem back to them so they know that we get it. show them how we can overcome it, and then show them what their life will be like when it's done. So if you've not read the book, it's certainly worth your time. And related to that, it's a quote from Rory Vaden, who's I guess a brand kind of guy. I don't even know how to put him, but he said in one of his podcasts, he said, "You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were." So for a lot of us, we've struggled to come up with this. We've had an issue over the years and we've solved it. I see Jenny Munn on the call. She's a great example of that. She was a copywriter trying to get herself to rank better in Google and became an SEO person because she knew the struggles of that. So if she can tell that story about, the struggles she had early on, she can relate to people having the same struggle and then, serve from there. Next, we'll dig into keyword research. So once we have the messaging in place, we go after specific keywords. We use Moz for that, but there's a lot of great tools out there. I'm not saying Moz is the best, but we have like a 5-step thing going back and forth with the client where they give us a few keywords to look at. We build it to a bigger list. They kind of rank them. We kind of clean up and just get a list of stuff, a list of, perhaps a couple hundred keywords that might be good. And then we dig into whether they're good or not. And of course, keyword research and SEO could be a whole series of meetups. But to quickly dig into what we do here with Moz is we end up with a spreadsheet kind of like this, where you see at the bottom part, we have the min and max volume. So how many times people search for that every month, the difficulty on a scale from 1 to 100, how difficult it is to rank for that term, the opportunity, which I think may be unique to Moz, but some may have it, but on a scale from 0 to 100, what is your opportunity like? An example there is if you do a search for something and the first thing you see is 4 ads, and then you see a map, and then you see an image carousel, and the number one result is actually like 2 screens down. The opportunity is not as good as if number one was front and center. So we factor that in. We factor in the client's level of importance, and then have a score that Moz spits out. And then Brooke, our SEO person, will go through and has some other metrics she run on that, and that's what she'll kind of highlight what you see here. And we'll use that going forward. We'll say these are keywords that are searched a good amount, they're not too difficult, have good opportunity that you, the client, said you want to do, so let's go after them. So that leads into the next step, which is our sitemap, just figuring out the navigation, and not only just the navigation itself, but pages that might be lower than the nav or kind of orphans hanging out. We're going to figure out every page we have and just kind of figure out a short description for each page. Some of the titles of these will be influenced by that keyword research, when a name a service a certain way based on the keywords. But really just kind of figure out all the pages we have and just give that short description. And then the next step, we take that short description and do a lot more work on it. So we build what's called a content outline for every single page, which includes a goal for every single page. So this is something you can do, even if you're not building a site, you can go through every page of your site and say, what is the goal on this page? Some pages are obvious. The contact page, please fill out the form. But other pages, you might want them to dig deeper, might want them to understand who you are, might want them to sign up for your email list. There should be a goal on every page. And so we do, like you see on the right here, kind of a bulleted list for each page on the site of the various items that'll be on there, including what the main call to action is and other pieces that'll be needed. So as we start laying it out, we'll say, here's the 10 pieces that need to be on this page. How can we arrange them? And so we take this, typically we'll do copywriting for clients. We encourage that, but sometimes they'll take it on themselves. But either way, concise is best. Blaise Pascal has said famously, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. So it's easy just to spew out, paragraphs of stuff on a page, but if you can take time to work back through and really tighten it up, the more time you have, the better you should get there. There's a study technique called progressive summarization. I think Tiago Forte maybe came out with, but that's where if you write a bunch of notes on a book, you should go back through and kind of condense it down and eventually get to the essence of what you learned from it. And it's not dissimilar to what you should do with copywriting. It's kind of, write it all out there, everything you want, but now let's kind of work it down, not distill it all the way down, but get it down to where it's pretty tight. And the more time you have, the better writer you are, the better you can do that. So we have our content outline and we have some content going. So now it's time to sort of start design. We start with wireframes. We call them blueprints to our clients. It's easier to understand, but just black and white outlines of what's going on the page. We have that content outline, so we know all of the elements that need to go in. We decided we want a picture and a map and a contact form or whatever's going on the page. We have that list of stuff. And then we add to it the list of stuff on the left there, a search bar, maybe breadcrumbs. Those are all optional, but breadcrumbs, a call to action, contact info, probably social icons, maybe an email sign up, what all needs to go on that. And we'll start laying it out on the side there. It's much easier to lay it out, in that black and white thing than it is a fully finished CSS tidied website. Jenny asked, do we do wireframes for mobile first these days? We still do desktop first. Typically we do both though, for a subset of pages. In our case, we don't wireframe every page. We do a content outline for every page. We wireframe a subset of pages depending on their goals. So a 30-page site will typically wireframe 10 pages, but that kind of goes, and that's sort of where options come in when we're selling the sites. Hey, do you need more wireframes? Do you need less? How deep do they need to be? And then for some of those, we'll then also do mobile wireframes for what to clear out. So we may switch to mobile first for some, but most of our clients were B2B. So analytics says they're still desktop heavy, and that's really where the magic happens, but certainly depends on your audience. But good question there. Yeah, so we have this built out, and then once that's approved, the next step is the actual graphic design. You can kind of see how a wireframe, this is a real example we did earlier in the year, how it goes from a wireframe to a design. It's not pixel perfect, it's not meant to be, but it still follows what we laid out before. The only downside to all this this process, you can see there's freedom every step, and we can design things however we want, but it's kind of anticlimactic. We don't say, and here's the design. You know, they sort of know, they've seen the layout, they've seen the colors, they know the content. But I think anticlimactic is kind of a good thing for most cases like this. So there's never the big surprise. It still should be a nice day when they see it, and we'll make some changes, but there's no big surprises along the way. From here, then we start heading into development. And in between this, kind of with design and development, we'll talk accessibility just for a minute. Just a few things to keep in mind, that some are on the designer, most I think are on the developer. Just some things to keep in mind. Themes. A good theme will get you 75% of the way. I was kind of surprised as I dug into accessibility, how accessible our sites were without us really focusing on it, just because we use good themes. I always say you should pick themes that are dumb and pretty, that just look good but don't do much, and then you add functionality with plugins. A lot of baked in features are going to cause headaches. Jay asked, do we wireframe all sites? For us, we do, because we don't do smaller sites. I mean, our smaller sites start around $10,000 or so. So yeah, if it was a smaller site, if someone didn't have that budget, we don't do it. But if you did, yeah, I would probably not do as many wireframes then, because it is a lot of work, and that's sort of what plays into it. Jenny Munn making fun of me here on the next one. It's alt text. There is no such thing as an alt tag, but that's just semantics there. But yeah, use alt text liberally, certainly, to be very descriptive. And this gets tricky where you want to put keywords in there, and you sort of can, but really you want to, for accessibility, you want to explain what the picture is so people know what it is. Related to that, don't use pictures of text. Use pictures of pictures and text for text. If you need to put text over a picture, there's ways to do that properly with CSS. The next one is kind of new to me, and it's a little frustrating, but don't have links open in new tabs. That's bad for a lot of keyboard-focused users and screen readers and stuff. I mean, every link they click should just replace what they saw, and they can use the back button to go back. Because you open a new tab, you break the back button. The analogy I give there is both sides of things. If you open a new tab on my mom, she'll go to the new page, and then she'll hit back to go back to your site, and the back button is broken, and so she'll just close it all, and she's never coming back anyhow. And then for myself and probably most of you, we know how to open a new tab. We can wheel click or do whatever. So it's kind of annoying when they choose to do that for me. You could still argue either way here, but accessibility wise, you shouldn't. If you run through any accessibility checker, if you have things opening in new tabs, you're going to get dinged for it. Then a few other little things. You should add labels to form fields, like proper kind of ugly labels. Make some accessibility things really make things a bit, I guess, uglier. You should, more contrast and form field labels and stuff, but it's good to do. I use headings, which you should do anyhow. Use the proper H1, H2, H3 kind of hierarchy. You add an accessibility statement to your site. This I look at kind of like when SSL first started coming around pretty heavy 3 or 4 years ago. SSL doesn't protect your site. It just protects, people's information on the site. And so in terms of hackers, it doesn't protect you from a hacker. But if a hacker sees 3 sites they might want to go after, and 2 have SSL and 1 doesn't, they'll say, well, the one that doesn't is probably not paying attention to security, so let's try them first. Same with accessibility statements. It's not going to save you if a lawyer comes after your site. But if a lawyer, oops, sorry, a few people to admit here I missed. If a lawyer is looking at sites that they want to sue, and there are lawyers that simply go around trying to find sites to sue for accessibility stuff, if you have an accessibility statement, they'll probably stop and say, you know what, they're considering this stuff already. Let's find easier prey. And so it just kind of protects you, and it's a good thing to do. And then the last one is use camel case hashtags. Don't have strings of lowercase hashtags with a bunch of words, because again, screen readers will try to read that as one long word, which is usually unpronounceable if it's any length. So camel case is just as easy for, it still works on Twitter and stuff. It'll link to the same hashtag, but it'll make it easier for screen readers and folks to read those. Bonus tip with all these too, pretty much everything you do for accessibility is good for SEO. So it's not like this is a bad thing. Again, you get a few issues with designers with contrast levels you need to hit and stuff, but 99% of accessibility stuff is just going to help your SEO too. So why not? So at this point though, so our designer's handing off to our developer. So it's time to build the site. Of course, we build everything on WordPress. We have for years, and we will for the foreseeable future. You know, I'm guessing at some point that'll change, but no time in the next few years for sure. We get them onto a staging site. You know, we don't host sites at our agency. There's different ways to handle that. So the staging is different each time. It may be on their site, maybe on their new hosting. We have servers we can use, that kind of stuff. Help make final tweaks there. And then we launch. We tell folks it's like a 5-minute launch because that's really all it is, to either dump the files on or point DNS or whatever. But myself and our developers spend most of the day on the site with a huge checklist that I have published somewhere. I can send a link to. Just making sure things work. You know, it's things that it's almost all redundant. It's making sure Google can see the site, making sure analytics is on there, making sure the form works, making sure you're not linking to the staging site anywhere. Just lots of double checking stuff. And almost all of it say, yep, that's good. Yep, that's good. Yep, that's good. But occasionally it's, oh, we forgot that one. So JS we use Git for collaborative. We do not. I think most folks probably should, but with a solo developer, she uses local and just does it herself with local by flywheel and pushes up. But Git certainly can be good for collaborative environments. So after the site launches, though, we're far from done. In our case, we offer training to all of our clients, really whether they want it or not, just so they know what's going on at the very least. And if they want to manage it themselves, they certainly can. We have various ongoing things we can do, just from, you know, excuse me, a lot of you do with, you know, updating WordPress and handling tweaks and doing reporting. We help with email marketing, social media, ongoing blogging, all that kind of stuff. There's really lots of ways you can promote your site going forward. Seth Godin quote came out recently, though, or I heard recently, that I liked. He said, the people you most want to engage with don't want to be hustled. So meaning, don't add them to your email list without asking because they're going to hate it. You know, don't text them without asking because they're going to hate it. And we, especially all of us here in Georgia, are very familiar with being hustled by politicians lately that just feel they have the right to text us and email us and whatever. So yeah, so be careful not to do that. It's tough to build an email list from scratch, but it's by far the best way. The people that are on it will really care. We question, how do we schedule Q&A follow-up and personal support? If you're asking about this specific meetup, like if you need support, reach out to April and she can get you connected there. In our case with clients, we have a support address they reach out to. I guess I could talk about that just a little bit because it's kind of nice with especially with the tweaks and updates when clients need things. We use Help Scout for that. It's a good tool. Lots of good help desk kind of tools for that sort of thing. What we've done though is we connected support at Green Mellen Media to that. So our clients know the support address and they can email us, but that means they don't have to log into some support portal and deal with all that. They can just send us an email and we can deal with support portal. And the beautiful thing on that end too is Natalie on our team typically handles support, but if she's out of town, we can just kind of point that to someone else that's around to handle it. So we don't have to tell our clients like, oh, Natalie's out of town, so this week remember to email Brooke instead. We can say just email support. And yeah, April uses Live Agent, so yeah, there's lots of good tools out there for that. Again, ours is Help Scout, which we really like, but again, there's plenty of great ones. So then along with growth, you want to be able to track what you do. 4 big ways to do that. Google Search Console is really finding info about visitors before they get to you, especially with some of the changes in analytics. You can see more about what people are searching for, what keywords they use. The neat one in there is you can see what keywords you show up in search results for, but don't get clicked on. So you can see what keywords am I showing up on page 4 for, and that becomes an easy one. It's easier to go from page 4 to page 1 than it is from nowhere to page 1. So Search Console can do some cool stuff. I'm guessing Jenny probably has some great videos on that somewhere. Google Analytics, of course, to track info about visitors on their site, on your site. Looking at the audience, who comes to the site, the acquisition, looking at how they got to the site, behavior, sort of what they do on the site, and conversions if they actually filled out the form or watched the video, whatever your main thing is. And then I'll show examples of these last 2, heat maps to see where exactly people click on the site, which can be nice. It's not just which pages, but literally where on the page they click. And then various dashboards to make it easier to gain insights. Our clients all have Google Analytics, and some of them like it, but most of them don't want all that. They say, just tell me the things I want to know. And so we have some dashboards we set up for that. So this is a screenshot from Fresh Marketer, but Crazy Egg and Hotjar are similar, but this is just where are people clicking on the site. And you can get some good insights from that and maybe make some changes. It was, I think, 2017, we were building the site for First Methodist Church in Marietta. And they said, we want our PDF bulletin on the homepage. And I was like, guys, no, you don't. It's 2017. Like, people don't do that anymore. And they said, yes, trust us, we do. And it's okay. So we put it on there and put the heat map on it. And sure enough, that little PDF glows like the sun. People go there all the time to click on it. So one, I like to have data behind what I say. And so it's good to learn those sorts of things and really test. And then in that case, we're able to make use of that too. We move that PDF further down the page, kind of like putting the milk in the back of the grocery store, make people, if they're coming for that, make them see all the events and stuff going on before they get to that if they're coming for it anyhow. So you can do things like that. Typically it's the opposite. You see things that people are not clicking, you wish they would, you make them more obvious, but in that case, they were going to look for it regardless. So it was good to do that. And yeah, so this is Fresh Marketer, but they've kind of grown into a lot of other stuff. If I started fresh, I'd probably look at Crazy Egg or Hotjar for tools for that. But and I think there's more than that out there. I'm sure there's more than that out there. Those are the big three. Crazy Egg used to be a different company. It used to be just a heat map company, and they got bought by Fresh Marketer. So yeah, it's lots of different ones, but they all work about the same. And then, yeah, Matt says Hotjar is fantastic for e-commerce. Matt, can you say more about that? Why for e-commerce specifically? We'll see if he answers there. But yeah, Matt's saying you can unmute yourself if you want to talk, and if you're able to. But
can you all hear me?
Yeah.
So one thing I really liked about it was that not only does it record videos of customers, and it hides all their credit card information, personal information with these videos, but it also has a filter where you can see where if a user's clicking on it like 20 times in a row, it's called like the frustration filter or something. So you know, like that's where people are not able to check out, or there's some sort of issue. As we know with e-commerce, there's a lot of times stuff like that going on. So it's kind of nice. You can set up alerts and you can actually see exactly what they're clicking and where they're getting stuck. So we actually use it not just for that, but also for troubleshooting with customers. So
gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, the video part, we've done some video stuff before too, and that can be powerful. The downside of videos is that someone has to sit and watch them all and gain the insights from them, and very time consuming, but certainly very valuable too. So yeah, very cool. Yeah, I don't know that Fresh Marketer does videos. I think it just does the clicks. The one thing I do like with Fresh Marketer that I know Crazy Egg doesn't do, and not sure about Hotjar, is if in this example, this is just a screenshot, but if I were to hover over the navigation and had a drop down, as soon as it drops, it would then paint those with how often people click in the drop down. So it's not just a static look, it's a semi-dynamic look at where people click, which is kind of nice. But yeah, and then moving on, reporting. So this is a tool we use called DataBox. There's many others. This again is just for our clients to give them a quick look and say, hey, pull up this link and here's the metrics you said you wanted to talk about. So we have some generic ones we set up and then almost always tweak it. Say, okay, you don't care about that one, but you want to see more about this. It connects to a zillion different things. So we can say, here's your traffic and analytics, and here's your new subscribers on MailChimp, and here's how many support tickets you had on, whatever systems you want. You pull them all in here. This one here is just analytics and Search Console, but you can do a lot more there. To be honest, Google Data Studio is a lot less expensive and a good bit more powerful, but a whole lot more complex. I played with Data Studio, but you really got to know your stuff, and you got to be kind of a designer to lay things out. This just gives you these 32 boxes, and you can see I've stretched some to be bigger boxes. And this works great. And yes, Jenny, this is what we show client reports now. We give some reports on like the back end of things, but in terms of analytics, this is what they get. And they have access to it 24/7. They can pull up this report anytime they want. My screenshot cut it off, but at the very footer, it'll say how often it was updated. And it updates every couple hours. It's not real time, but it's close. And for most of our clients, we'll have 3 to 5 of these for them. We usually have one overview kind of pulling in the best of everything. And then we'll have like a MailChimp focused one showing list subscribers and activity on the list, and an analytics focused one, and different ones. And yes, Jay, this is all pulled through APIs, and they have the APIs all set already. So you can just say, set it up with MailChimp, and it'll say, all right, you log in, set it up, and it just automatically works. So it's beautiful. They do have ways you can write your own stuff in it as well, but I've not gotten into that. And frankly, they cover everything we've needed so far, I think. I don't know there's been anything we're missing. They have literally hundreds of built-in API connections that you can just, single click, kind of like Zapier or one of those where you just kind of click and connect and off you go. And then you choose which reports you want. It gets a little messy trying to figure out how to pull the exact data sometimes because there's a lot you can pull. Their support's been great too. This is DataBox, Karen. Excuse me, great tool. Again, lots of other ones like that. We like this one the best. Again, a little expensive. I think we pay a couple $100 a month for it. Google Data Studio is free and more powerful, but just so complex. Yes, April, can't remember how you pronounce that. Saif. I have used it. I think they compare pretty well. I think this is prettier, I guess, as part of it. That one didn't tend to be as pretty. I don't feel like it connected to as many things, but I'm not sure. I know I looked at them side by side and I ended up here, but I don't recall exactly what it was, but they're very similar. There's a handful of tools that are you could pick a different one and be perfectly fine. So, okay. And Jenny says she can get by with the free version data box, but it's limited. So yeah, they do have a free one, but we've paid for the bigger bundle. So we can have a bunch of clients in here. And again, even at a couple $100 a month, if you have 10 clients in there, it doesn't take much to recover that. So it can work pretty well. And then through all this though, it's a long process. We go through building a site and maintaining all this afterward. We're talking 6 months or so. But I encourage you to listen to Voltaire that says the best is the enemy of the good. I see so many that even take longer than that and get hung up on little details. I was just looking the other day, we met with a guy like 3 years ago that had just a dreadful website. He had a new one that was almost ready to launch. He was a little frustrated with it, but it was pretty close. So we offered him some advice and he couldn't decide what was going on. And to this day, I just look back, he's still on his old dreadful site with this much better one he's had for 3 years because he's wanting to make it perfect before he launches, when he's lost undoubtedly many, many sales because you can't even navigate his existing site versus just launching and iterating. So it's a tough balance for sure between how you want to handle that. Allie on our team is very much making things the best. I'm very much making it good enough. Jay, analysis paralysis, exactly. There's a line in there somewhere. And so we try to make things nearly perfect, but absolutely perfect can be tough. And you never know for sure what that line looks like. But again, following this process tends to make things pretty good. So just a bit more how you can find me, and then we can jump into questions or whatever else April has. But yeah, our company is Green Mellen, greenmellenmedia.com. I'm at micmel.com. I blog there daily. You can see that. I set up a little school with a few courses in there now, academy.micmel.com. That's probably below a lot of what you need. Like I've one on how to set up a blog and things. If you're already in WordPress, you probably don't need that. But if you do, you can use the code April Meetup and get half off. And then I do have an affiliate program for 50% as well. So if you know other folks that want it, you can sell my courses and we'll split there. So reach out to me if you want that. And then as April mentioned, our meetup is A Brighter Web. We have, Thursday, the 21st of this month. We're going to be talking about the new Google Analytics 4.0, which frankly, I haven't dug into enough. So that's why we're talking about it this month. Some of the things I choose to talk about are things that I need to learn more about. Like that's how I got accessibility and GDPR and some we've done in the past. And Analytics 4.0 is kind of confusing to me still. So I'm trying to learn it and understand it. So the best way to do that is to teach it. So that's what we'll be covering in a couple of weeks, is how to set up Analytics 4.0, which is, kind of a hot mess, but yeah, there we go.
What kind of courses do you have in your academy, Mickey?
So I have 3 so far. One about how to set up a blog. It's about an hour long. I call it a technical course for non-technical people. So it's like, all right, here, go buy a domain name. Here's where you click to buy a domain name, and go buy hosting. And here's how you connect them together. And here's how you get a theme. Just kind of getting up a blog the right way. WordPress.com and Squarespace and stuff are great, but you're sort of on their domain name and you don't really own it. So I have it set up. I try to do it in a way that people are really set up to do it right. A good foundation for the future. And then I have one for Notion. I use Notion a lot. And then Roam Research, 2 productivity tools I've been using a ton the last year. So I have a course on Notion and a course on Roam. So.
And you have a lot of videos on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, a ton on YouTube. Yeah, for sure. So on both of those, on all 3 of those, really. So yeah.
And what's the name of your channel?
Micmel everywhere. Yeah, I'm Micmel on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on whatever. So.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? I have, okay, so Jenny says, what are some of the 2021 website trends you're seeing?
Good question. Not seeing anything too different from last year. I think it's still, I think messaging is the big area we're pushing more into. And I think that's where a lot of folks are. Is we're trying to avoid being trendy. I know you didn't mean trends in that way, I don't think, but we try to avoid trends as much as we can. So we know most sites we build are going to be up for 3 to 6 years, probably, if not more. And so, things like, to a large degree, like parallax scrolling, we've done a little bit of that, but not too much, because you can quickly say, they built that in 2018 when everyone did parallax, So we try to avoid some of the trends, but I think just, message is huge these days. People have less time than ever before. So that's kind of what I see. But curious to hear what other folks say too. I know we have some great brains in here. April, Mark, Melanie, whoever else wants to add what they're seeing that might be different this year. But for us, that's our main thing.
Ron is asking, is there a way we can access the slides from this presentation?
Yeah, I don't know how you want to do it, April. I can either put them on SlideShare and send you a link, or I can send you the slides, or whatever you want to do. So
either whatever's easiest for you. And we will have this video, once I get it transcribed, we'll have that up. Just want to make sure it's accessible for everybody. And we'll have that up in a couple of days on the Woodstock WordPress Meetup Facebook page and YouTube channel. So
cool. And yeah, what I'll do, I'll go ahead after this. I'll push the slides and leave a comment in the meetup for today, just where people can get it. And then if you want to mention it elsewhere later, April, you can.
right, that'd be great. Silly question, but do tiny independent business sites such as crafters and artists need to worry about accessibility?
Yes, because lawyers don't care. Kind of like hackers. You say, I'm tiny, hackers don't care about me. Well, hackers don't care. Like, they go after whoever they can. At least with accessibility suits, it's humans doing it for the most part still. So I think you're a little safer, but I mean, the laws are becoming a little clearer on what you need to do. And if you have big issues, it could be a problem. So again, if you just spend an hour tightening things up, adding some alt text, you know, making things not open a new window and adding that accessibility statement, you don't have to make it perfect. You'll get so far pretty quickly that I think you're safe. It's more if you're in bad shape and it doesn't load for people and has flash or what, you know, bad things could be trouble. But
one of the things that we've done that's like super easy is just with, if you have videos on your site, pop it up into otter.ai. You get like 600 minutes a month for free. And it will give you like auto-generated transcript of the video that then you can submit to YouTube to create an overlay. I mean, and it's just a few extra steps, but it's literally free. Yep. And can make a huge difference for people coming to your site.
Absolutely. Good advice there for sure. And then let's see who asked this one. Sue asked if we're using a page builder like Elementor or Beaver Builder or using Gutenberg. We're mostly Beaver Builder and then some Gutenberg on lighter sites, but I'd say 90% Beaver Builder at this point, just for layouts. We do custom post types and stuff Ashley does by hand. She's written enough over the years. She has code snippets to use. There's pods and some things to do that. But yeah, for layouts, Beaver Builder for the most part. Gutenberg, some.
And when you post those slides, do you have that launch checklist handy anywhere? Because I think that would be something. I know it's
cool. Yeah, I'll find it. Yeah, I'll see where it is.
That would be super helpful.
Yeah, good idea. I'll make note of that.
Okay, so here's a question. What are some unexpected things that could go wrong when you launch a site if you don't have a good checklist?
Oh, good question. The big one is, and I think we've probably all done it, if not at least seen it, is leaving the little checkbox check that says discourage search engines from visiting this site, because that Google will listen to that. Google will not visit your site and you will get no traffic from them just for being a little checkbox check. So that one we look at like 8 times just to make sure, because that makes me nervous that we'll leave it checked. That's a big one. Broken forms are another one. If you're on a staging server and the form works, when you move live, it may have a different mail setup. So, you know, forms could break there. And then staging URLs in images. So that can be another one where, especially on launch, you say it looks great, and then a week later you take down the staging site and half the live images break because you didn't update those. So, Mark, so yeah, 301 redirects. That's a great one too, Mark. If you've changed page names, you want to get those done on launch day to say about.html is now /about. So Google picks those up and users pick those up, and yeah, that's a huge part of our list. That's probably the most time consuming item on that list, actually, is the 301 redirects. So yeah, good thought.
Running mixed content checkers, you know, like you said, to catch those, you know, like when you're doing your SSL, just to make sure you're catching all that stuff.
Yeah, we double check SSL, double check analytics is in there. Analytics is an easy one to forget too, because it's not usually on the staging one. So make sure it's on the live site. So yeah, lots of little things. So.
All right. Jay says he likes to see HTTP auth password on dev sites. Only the authorized can see, so Google doesn't pick it up. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. We generally just do unindexed, weird URL sites so clients don't have to deal with a password, but I certainly don't disagree with what you're saying either. So as long as we have it blocked from Google, I'm not concerned about hackers. So yeah.
Do you have like a company development domain that you build stuff on and then transfer it over, or do you tend to build on the hosting environment where it's going to live?
Some of both. We have a company branded one, GM Staging or something. I don't remember what it is. We have one we use, but generally a lot of our clients, they come to us on bad hosting. So say, all right, as part of this, we're going to get you onto WP Engine or Flywheel or somewhere. So we build the new site on there as the staging. And then when it's time to go live, we just point the DNS over. I'd say that's probably 75% is like that. And then the rest, yeah, we'll put on our staging. If they're going to stay on their same hosting, whether it's good hosting or bad, we'll put the staging up on our server. And then if they like it, then when it's time to go live, we'll just kind of dump it on top of their existing one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other questions? This has been so helpful, Mickey. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Are there any beginner videos? Such a newbie at this, pretty much lost. I would say there is WordPress.tv is a great resource. You can search by presenter, you can search by talk, but also just YouTube. And Mickey, you've got beginner stuff in your academy, correct?
Yeah, for getting things started for the blog. Yeah, one of the courses on that. And again, use the code April Meetup and you get save half off that. And I would also say WP Beginner is a good place to go to. WPBeginner.com. They have lots of great stuff in there. I mean, thousands and thousands of posts, I think, over the years on various topics. So
Dallas is asking, what tools do you use to move a site?
So a couple things we do. We have Blog Vault we put on every site. It's a great backup. One thing I like about Blog Vault, not to get too into it, but a side thing that Blog Vault does that's neat that I've seen come up recently in other meetups I was in a couple weeks ago is when you make a backup on Blog Vault, you can spin up a quick staging site from them, like on their server. So if you need to test something, you don't have a proper way to stage it, Blog Vault can work well, and Blog Vault can migrate. In our case, though, we generally do manual migrations, just to make sure things are good. So we'll use Blog Vault to grab a copy, we'll put it on our computer with the files in the database, make sure it's good, and then just push it up, via FTP and stuff to make sure, just to have our hands on it, make sure it's good. Because if you do it automatic, you had to wait 10 minutes, and maybe it failed. And if I do it myself, I know that all the files are there, the database is there, like I know it's good.
Nice.
Yeah, you mentioned all-in-one migration is great. Backup Buddy does a great job too, Melanie, and lots of good choices. Blog Vault again does a good job if you use their migration tools, and then a lot of hosts will do it for you. I think SiteGround still does. I'm not sure, they're cutting so many services, it's hard to know. Flywheel I know does. If you move to Flywheel, their experts will take care of migrations for you. So lots of good options. But as much as possible, I like to.
Blog Vault, right?
What's that?
Doesn't WP Engine use Blog Vault for migrations too?
I don't know.
Okay. Jenny's asking, how much do you get into content pruning to clean things up? Do you do that in the early strategy phase?
Yes. So basically, when we're at the sitemap and content outline and copywriting sections, and yeah, we decide it's usually not content pruning. I mean, it's generally fresh content. We'll certainly pull some content from the old site, but it's not, here's everything from the old site, let's clean it up. It's no, here's what we want to build. And can we pull anything from the old site? And we will, and we'll clean it up. But it is certainly the early strategy phase, but it's more maybe reusing a few things from the old site, but typically it's writing fresh, for what needs to be on the new site based on because usually we go through the messaging and stuff and things need to change. The tone needs to change a little bit, the voice, you can't just copy stuff over too much. Certainly sometimes, but if we let clients do their own copywriting, that's often what they'll do, is just copy the old stuff over. So we've kind of changed our perspective from a few years ago, like, hey, it's time for copywriting, or in the proposal even, you're going to take care of that yourself? Cool, no problem. Now we kind of say, we're going to do that for you. And if they push back, we'll let them, if they can convince us. But we sort of made it a default that we'll handle content for you because we have a couple of great writers on the team. If they push back, they can, but that makes life so much easier if you can handle that.
How do you deal with copywriting from the site? This question is from Mark Traeger. What do you typically charge, by the hour or flat?
We have, I can't remember what the number is, but it's just not $1 per page. I think it's $2.50 a page, something like that. But we kind of mix it in. So Allie and I built this internal spreadsheet of, as we're pricing on a site, we need this many wireframes, this many design content, this many, this many custom post types, these other features, and kind of builds out a price for us. And so we have that baked in. So copywriting for the site's built in. We'll say for this, for this site, we're going to copyright 15 pages for you. And then a second option might be, for this site, we're going to edit 15 pages for you. You supply it and we'll edit it. And it's about half the price for that. Teresa asked if our small site for 10K includes copy. Usually a few, yeah. I mean, 10K is kind of a rough. We go below that a little bit. We get down to maybe 8 sometimes, but typically 10 is where we are. If you get enough wireframes, a little bit of copy and stuff. But yeah, generally, I'd say our typical site's more 20-ish, just by the time you get enough copywriting in and various things, but it's all over the place. Jay asked about security and other CDN firewall solutions. Blog Vault is our main one for that as well, because they have a second product called Malcare that has a firewall built in and great malware scanning, I guess you'd say. Again, one thing I like about that, and some hosts, that's the only malware scanner they'll allow because they don't crunch on your server. Most malware scanning services like WordFence is great, but it just chews on your server while it's scanning. With Blog Vault, because they do a backup, they back up the site first to their server, and then they crunch on their servers and dig deeper to see what they find and let you know the results. So your host doesn't get mad about them doing all that scanning on their server and chewing up resources. So it really works well for that. So by default, it's really just, we have Blog Vault and we use Managed WP as well. It's a little redundant, but I'm okay with redundant backups and stuff. And it has its own malware scanning thing, which is a lot lighter. It's more like a high level security kind of thing. So it doesn't catch much. Blog Vault catches more than anything. So
I would like to touch on redundant backups because I know there's probably people on this call who their host does backups, and that's what they are consistently relying on. And I would, just from my personal experience, I would never 100% put all my eggs in my hosting backups. Servers go down, things happen. I would at least get one additional backup going. You can do, I think, Managed WP, you can get one free backup a month. If you're going to pay for it, Blog Vault's a great, a great thing, or even just downloading through like Updraft or all-in-one migration, just doing a manual backup.
Yep.
It's always important. Yes, Melanie, I agree. 3 separate backups equals a backup. That's what I do. I think that might be out of reach for, most people who don't know 3 different backup solutions. Maybe we should do that as a meetup for next month and just talk about backups. I think that's a great one. Okay, someone had a question about iTheme security. This is what able iTheme security, right?
I think what about is what that was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I used it for a while. Nothing wrong with it. It did a fine job, I think. I mean, we never had any major issues, but again, I think Malcare did better for us at a higher cost. I mean, for Blog Vault and Malcare, we're paying, I think, like $350 a month, but that's for like 150 sites. So at the low end, it's a little expensive. It's 10 or 15 bucks a site. But then as you scale up, we pay like $1.50 a site now for all that. So it scales. I think iThemes is cheaper if you just have one site to do. It does a fine job. I don't have any complaints with it, but yeah. And then I was going to also mention Managed WP. You said you get 1 free backup per month, which is true. The paid to get it every day, I think, is like $1 or $2 a month. I mean, it's just nothing. So it's worth sign up for Managed WP, pay for the premium backups for $1 or $2, and it'll back up your site every day, and you don't have to worry about it. So it makes it pretty easy. And
I've restored, I can't tell you how many sites I've restored from that backup because somebody messed something up, or we got a white screen of death with a client, and you're just literally going back and clicking a button to restore the site to an earlier backup. That's nice.
Yeah. I think the only problem, and Melanie sort of alluded to it here, but not directly, is I think so many of them go to AWS ultimately. She says backup by AWS. I think Managed WP uses AWS, and I think Blog Vault does as well. So that makes me a little concerned that they're all on AWS. But I figure if AWS ever crashes to the point where it's not recoverable, we have much bigger problems than our client's website because the whole internet is basically toast. You see when it goes down for a few hours. So I'm not super concerned there, but I still grab a backup every now and then and throw it just on an external hard drive I keep behind me, but not often enough with as many sites as we have. That does loom in my mind a little bit. I think most all these are AWS, which is a single point of failure technically. So
sounds good. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Nikki. As always, welcome to 2021 in the WordPress world. And again, if you scroll up into chat, I'm going to leave this running for just a minute or two. Scroll all the way back up. There's Mickey's links. There's links to our outside communities. And as always, we'll be here the first Wednesday of next month at 11:30. All right. So thank you so much for coming.
Awesome. Thank you, April.